We think about investing in phases. So you build out infrastructure for new technology, and then once that infrastructure is built, then you can monetize it. So we've seen, NVIDIA doing so well in the last couple of years, but then that pivoting to now that infrastructure is built out, and these guys all have these Blackwell racks, they can start monetizing through their cloud platforms. And we've seen that in acceleration at Microsoft Azure, even at Amazon Web Services. Is really important in terms of that acceleration, and that's going to play to that capex spending. So all of those capex plays you were highlighting before, that gives you more sort of confidence in that playing out for not just the next year, but for years to come. And that's obviously been the big debate for not just NVIDIA and the compute names, but the networking names as well. There are not too many losers out of this beyond the fact that just in a cloud world, it was so dominated by two players in particular. There's going to be a little bit more breadth to that in an AI world. So again, just a little bit more market share being spread out amongst players, which again gives us a few more investment opportunities.
But first, talk about shares of Oracle soaring in the pre-market thanks to this AI demand. Company says it expects booked revenue from its core cloud business to exceed $500 billion, and that news overshadowed this quarterly miss. This is Safra Katz on the call last night.
We now expect Oracle Cloud Infrastructure will grow 77% to $18 billion this fiscal year, and then increase to $32 billion, $73 billion, $114 billion, and $144 billion over the following 4 years. Much of this revenue is already booked in our $455 billion RPO number, and we are off to a fantastic start this year.
Morgan Stanley desk today, Jim. I've been doing this a really long time, and I tell my whole team, pay attention to this because this is a career event happening right now.
I think it's true. This is a masterful conference call and from a very large cap stock. And I have not seen a move overnight. In particular, we did have that May move a couple years ago with NVIDIA, but this is not like that. David, this is one where I'm on the conference call and I'm saying, no, not true, can't be. And then, look, the most you can say is look, it's entirely possible that some of it is one large customer that we know, right?
It is a number of customers, but certainly OpenAI is an important component of this. And Stargate, but a lot of that has already been booked. Right. But to your point, I mean, I had a conversation with a large technology investor this morning who's been around for a long time and simply said, I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. Was expecting, what they call RPO to go from, backlog essentially from maybe 150 to 200, but to 450 plus $1 billion.
Yeah, and
it was, and the analysts are following that same thing. I mean, and in your 20 years covering Oracle, says the Deutsche Bank analyst, for that matter, the entire software industry, there are a few quarterly results that match this in terms of magnitude of revision and clarity of the moment.
And how about the fact that it comes with at a moment where I think there were a lot of shorts pressing Oracle because the last quarter was just only okay. But more importantly, there were a lot of people who were saying, hey, listen, the data center, that's over. Let's move on. Mag 7 over. Elite 8 over. This was it. And then completely wrong. Completely wrong. And I think this caught a lot of people looking the wrong way.
If that's true, should other names be trading higher than they are?
I think they should be, but it's not happening. I would have thought that Broadcom, which is in the mix, would be up more. Taiwan Semi, which is in the mix, would be up more. And, of course, NVIDIA, because it's NVIDIA's shop. But NVIDIA is one of those stocks that has just gone so out of favor that literally there are people who are afraid to take it up. Now, we're going to be speaking to Vlad Tenev later today. David, have you ever
Robinhood, we should point out.
Have you ever seen overnight buying like this, moving a large cap stock?
This is really this is an extraordinary moment. It's funny to go back 30 years, and then it takes me deeper into the .com moment. But we had certain days, certain things like that, and this is kind of one of them. Again, history rhymes. It doesn't necessarily repeat, as Twain said that, right? Yeah, I think so. But that's just similar to that. And of course, a move like this in a company that already had a $600+ billion market value coming in is truly shocking. We'll do the math later on what Larry Ellison's net worth is going to be, because you are talking about conceivably one of the largest increases in net worth the world has ever seen. He's probably approaching Musk in terms of world's wealthiest man. But that just goes to show there. But, What about OpenAI? I mean, they seem to I don't know. Are they're spending so much money that it's supporting everything?
They're spending a huge amount of money, and I think that look, somebody wants to win. We're going to talk about Apple later. Somebody wants to win. Maybe whoever ties up with Apple wins. Now that we know that the Google trade, where Google gives them $20 billion to be preloaded, is a legal trade. I'm saying that if you own Oracle, you have a different life today. If you own NVIDIA. I went to a restaurant, it's Phuket, it's not bad, by the way. And a guy comes up to me and he goes, "Can I shake your hand?" I said, "Why?" He goes, "NVIDIA." I said, "Sure, thank you." I leave. Guy says, "Can I have my picture with you?" I said, "Why?" "NVIDIA." I said, what does it mean to you? It changed my life, NVIDIA. Oracle's changed somebody's life, then we're not allowed to talk about that.
Well, it takes you back to the days of the 90s and Microsoft millionaires, right?
And that's what I'm talking about. Microsoft made a lot of millionaires.
Or Amazon or Alphabet. Well,
did you see Amazon was added to the vintage list of Morgan Stanley vintage? What's that, like the Camus 40-year? These guys have a big relationship with NVIDIA. I thought NVIDIA would be held back by Synopsys.
But it's not. It's up almost 4% on the Oracle numbers.
NVIDIA was only up 1.8% on the Oracle numbers initially.
Well, now it's up.
Now it's starting to roll. I think that. Remember Wednesday where the best days of NVIDIA were behind them? I heard that from a series of analysts. Best day behind them. You actually heard that. That's like Apple 300 points and best days are behind.
People looked at that last quarter and they were less than...
Hasn't been this much below the 50 since April. I mean, it's clearly going through something. By the way, TSM August revenue was pretty good.
Wow.
Best month since April.
Those guys are fantastic.
For Taiwan Semi.
Yeah, almost 34 year on year. That's going to be a fresh
Which, of course, as we should point out, they manufacture all of the chips that are designed by NVIDIA.
Yeah. Do some AMD business. AMD is a winner in this also.
Yeah, AMD's up as well.
Great job.
Yep.
So you're looking at Broadcom, those shares up about 9%, NVIDIA's up about 4%. Is this just really a sign that some of those second level plays, second derivative, whichever way you want to talk about it, this is their time as well? Is this also a sign that Palantir, it's safe to put money back in there after this report? That stock's seen a lot of volatility. Is this also about a Vistra? You safe to put money there? Because if you're going to have this kind of data center build out and this cloud infrastructure build out, you need power as well. I mean, is that the way you guys all see it? Jim?
Yeah, I mean, look, Jason pointed out the remaining performance obligations, $455 billion for Oracle. Guess what? That money is going to flow through the supply chain. I don't care if it's utilities. I don't care if it's Cisco or Broadcom. That's a lot of money that's coming into the ecosystem, and it's going to hit a lot of pinball, a lot of pinball bounces before it gets to the bottom. So this is good for the AI trade writ large.
Sorry to cut you off, Jimmy. A lot to talk about here.
Broadcom's had this huge run since last Friday. NVIDIA, I mean, this in a way arguably rescued that stock a little bit because it had sort of threatened to break down. It gets below the 50-day average. It was below 170. And so even though it's not a massive move, it is in market cap, but in percentage terms, I do think that, it shows you it's just been dangerous to keep calling the peak, in these AI waves.
I mean, we have to point out the journal article today that said is Oracle the new NVIDIA?
Yes.
Is Oracle the new Microsoft? I mean, you can also say, is Oracle the new Microsoft software company, gone to cloud, gone to cloud infrastructure?
I think the NVIDIA analogy is mostly because of the massive step function in revenue growth based on like one quarter's guidance. And all of a sudden, it sort of, you get anointed as the key bellwether play in the group. But, we've kind of cycled through a lot of other candidates here. Remember Supermicro was going to be one of these, CoreWeave, of course. So I think there's a, I don't think Oracle is in those categories, but there is a risk here that people just kind of overplay their hand initially. But it is better than 2023 into 2024 when really NVIDIA and Microsoft were the only ways to get a defined bet on it.
Well, Broadcom's up 8% of this news. Some of the AI players, NVIDIA up sharply, AMD, it all makes sense to you?
Look, we wrote, again, a few weeks ago, our North Star, we called it, is to own semis over software as a general rule. I mean, Oracle's a bit of a combo, but I just think semis compute, if you want to call it that, grew for 30-plus years at 2% above GDP. It's going to grow 5, 6, 7% above GDP from 2 years ago until 5, 6, 7 years from now. And that growth is going to be at higher gross margin than it was historically because a lot of the businesses just, they don't make the chips themselves anymore. They outsource. So do I want exposure to a business growing that fast above GDP? I think so. It doesn't mean we won't have some 20 or 30% corrections on that
I guess
path,
it's at what valuation and until what point?
I don't think valuation really matters a ton for security selection. In fact, I think it mostly helps people lose money. I think what matters is accelerating revenue growth, margin expansion, beating expectations. And I think, as you see, there's still a lot of upside potential. And that backlog number from Oracle is just massive, right? Like they're telling you, and look at what Jensen said at NVIDIA, right? He started saying, I think we're what, $600 billion in global data center capex now. I think he said we're going to have $1 trillion in 2028. Then he took it to 2027, and then people were saying, well, maybe there's $3 to $4 trillion in 2030. So, you want to talk about valuation? How about something that's growing from $600 billion to $3 trillion in the next 6 or 7 years? Like, do you want to short that as an exposure? Not really, right? You want exposure to that. So my view is this is a party. It's pretty fun, but it's like 8, 9 p.m. Like, you still want to go to the party and have a good time.
And own all, Broadcom, NVIDIA, Amazon, all the hyperscalers that are in this party.
I think there's a lot of semis down the stack you can own, too. I mean, I don't see how the world can function without KLAC, Lam, AMAT, ASML. I don't see that can function without Cadence and Synopsys. I think there'll be things in there that, obviously Taiwan Semi, which is probably the most important asset on earth. I mean, there's a ton of things as you look down the road that are just going to continue to be cyclical, going upward slope for some time. So, yeah, if I run an equity book and U.S. exposure is part of what I do, then, yeah, I'm going to own a lot of semis over the medium and long term to continue.
You mentioned Synopsys. It's down 35% today. Had a week. This one.
Yeah, I think over time, these things just you can't function without EDA. So you're going to need those businesses. They've had some company-specific stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Reminding us all that you were a semiconductor analyst when we first met.
When I covered them 20 plus years ago, they weren't this important. But the challenge is not only are they big, Broadcom and NVIDIA, but the beta, meaning like how they act when the market goes up or down, is even bigger than that. So you're talking like it's really hard for the market to go up a lot and semis go down a lot. I think at this point, they're just so important to the overall AI trade.
No one cared about semis when you were.
Yeah, they were more just kind of a 6-month rental than they were kind of a structural 10-month hold. And a lot of the businesses built the stuff themselves, so their margins got collapsed. I think the difference in this cycle with all the hyperscaler capex is if it turns out, to really weigh on securities and people worry about the return, they're not going to go down anywhere near as much as the old school semis did because their margins got killed. These guys are just funding it from the cash flow that's so massive from their other businesses.
Well, and the revenue growth is incredible as well.
Yeah.
All right, Adam.
These companies are seeing something. There's a reason Jensen Huang said 3 to 4 trillion in data center capex by the end of the decade. There's a reason Hock Tan was so bullish on his call. These are the two greatest CEOs. I don't want to even put down anybody. These are really good CEOs. So you're kind of saying what they're seeing is a clown show, and I think it's the exact opposite. I think that people are looking at it, and the smartest guys are going, oh my God, and part of this will go down in history, what you heard last night. So maybe the bubble starts now, but this is what you're seeing. And I would just be careful because we've been building up to this moment, and now AI is starting to have that inferencing halo that could be pretty powerful. And that's our view here.
So Jensen said 3 to 4, but you're saying 2 in terms of the TAM for AI by 2030. And I'm just wondering, what if Jensen is right? What does that do to your view on any of the stocks that you cover that are in this space?
Well, actually, Jensen and I are saying the same thing. What Jensen's doing is he's including the dirt in the ground, the walls, the cooling, all sorts of things. Like he may not do the air conditioners, and I'm including just the compute and networking. So when you take Jensen's 3 to 4 trillion, which I think is going to be at the upper bound of that, and then you take a little more than half, 55 to 60%, which could be compute / networking / other things NVIDIA does, then we're saying the same thing. And I actually was able to back into that number. We put out a big report Monday, and it's just a huge number. And I think that with regard to that, what we really need to do is make sure that obviously people are getting a rate of return. I actually think the rate of return reports are very suspect. I actually think a lot of our companies are, unfortunately, what's going to happen here is there's going to be a lot of headcount cuts and stuff like that for AI. And we're seeing it at all the companies, who have stopped hiring and taking a lot of the leverage. So I think that shows that AI is showing a lot of return, and we're seeing digital labor kind of come in faster than expected, not slower. So that's where we are right now, and we feel like our TAM number of 2 trillion for compute networking can really make Broadcom, Arista, NVIDIA, as well as a few others, go up a lot more even from here.
I hope you're all doing well today. Today was a fantastic day in the market for many of the AI infrastructure names, including NVIDIA, after Oracle reported very strong guidance and backlog growth yesterday. Oracle's backlog rose 359% year over year, and they gave very clear visibility into their future revenue growth. Oracle's backlog and guidance, coupled with the Microsoft Nebius deal we spoke about yesterday, are very clear indications that AI demand is extremely strong right now. Microsoft does not like relying on other companies for capacity, and so the fact they're making multi-billion-dollar deals with companies like Nebius tells us that demand is extremely strong and Microsoft is still capacity constrained. Oracle's massive backlog and strong guidance yesterday reaffirms this thesis. As I've been saying for a very long time now, I think NVIDIA still has a lot of runway ahead of it, and we're nowhere near a bubble bursting type of event, not even close. Very briefly, I want you to listen to me right now because this is very important. I want you to research Iron. I am very bullish on this company over the next couple years, and I want you to look into it. I genuinely think there's a lot of upside ahead. I was already bullish on this company even before the Microsoft Nebius deal was announced, and even before Oracle reported earnings yesterday. And now those two events make me even more confident in saying that I am bullish on this company over the next couple of years. Iron recently reported a fantastic quarter with very strong gross margins. They have a similar business model to that of CoreWeave and Nebius. They're now an NVIDIA preferred partner. They're making a strong pivot into AI cloud. They are massively expanding their AI cloud capacity in the very near future, and they're funding their expansion primarily through non-dilutive financing. Seriously, look into this company, do your own research, and consider it from the perspective of a long-term investment over the next couple of years. I'm not telling you what to do, and this is not financial advice. I personally am very bullish on this company. I think there's a lot of potential upside over the next couple of years or so, and I seriously want you to research it. All right, now, let's talk more about NVIDIA. Really quick, I'm going to talk about NVIDIA's new Rubin CPX that they announced yesterday, in case you missed it. Yesterday, NVIDIA unveiled Rubin CPX. Rubin CPX is the first CUDA GPU purpose-built for massive context AI, where models reason across millions of tokens of knowledge at once. According to NVIDIA, companies can monetize at an unprecedented scale with $5 billion in token revenue for every $100 million invested. That is a fantastic ROI. This new processor will be critical for high-value inference use cases like software development, video generation, and more. Rubin CPX is not meant to replace Rubin GPUs. Rather, it is meant to complement them. Rubin CPX is a new type of processor, and it will have a major impact on emerging advanced use cases. Rubin CPX is expected to be available at the end of 2026. Also yesterday, NVIDIA reminded us that their systems are not only great for training, but also great for inference, with the GB300 setting new records. I remember earlier this year when there was a lot of noise and a lot of hoopla from some people saying that NVIDIA systems are great for training, but not good for inference, and therefore NVIDIA's dominance was at risk as we were moving into the age of inference. This news from NVIDIA is another reminder to ignore the short-term noise, stay calm, and remain focused on the long-term future. Looking ahead, Jensen Huang is expected to travel with the president on a state visit to the UK next week. If Jensen will be spending time with the president, I wonder if we will get an update soon on the United States allowing a new Blackwell chip into China. It appears that Chinese regulators are pushing back against the H20 right now, but there is still very strong demand for the H20 from Chinese tech firms that still want the chips. Regardless of what happens with the China situation, I view it as additional upside to what is already a solid long-term setup. Based on NVIDIA's Q3 guidance, their business is accelerating even without any H20 sales to China, and that is what we should be focusing on as long-term investors. Business is accelerating, and the long-term thesis remains intact. As we move through the remainder of this year and into 2026, we should have multiple positive factors converging at the same time. Revenue from certain sovereign AI deals should start to show up either in revenue or revenue guidance on NVIDIA's Q3 or Q4 reports. Blackwell Ultra is ramping very quickly right now, and I'm expecting a surge in compute demand fueled by agentic AI being introduced to the general public. I think Jensen agrees with this because he said on the earnings call that reasoning agentic AI will be a major growth driver in 2026. In 2026, we're expecting the launch of Vera Rubin. Then Rubin Ultra is expected in 2027 and Feynman later on in 2028. We have a clear data center product roadmap extending through 2028. Jensen believes the world's global AI factory buildout will be $3 to $4 trillion between now and 2030, which means he's expecting growing AI demand and an expanding total addressable market underpinning all of this. I also don't view NVIDIA's customer concentration as a major problem at this point in time for a couple reasons. First, NVIDIA's largest customers are not aimlessly investing in AI infrastructure in the hopes of eventually finding a use for it. Rather, they already have multiple uses for it. They're already seeing a direct ROI on their AI investments, and they're investing heavily in AI infrastructure in an attempt to meet extremely strong demand from their paying customers. Another reason customer concentration doesn't concern me at this very moment is that Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google's GCP collectively provide cloud services to millions millions of customers. And so in order for these 3 customers to pull back on their AI spending, we would need to see a broader decrease in AI demand from a large number of their millions of customers. And so while at first glance it appears that NVIDIA is at risk from customer concentration, the reality is that these 3 companies are providing cloud services to millions of customers. When you consider it from that perspective, you realize that customer concentration isn't really as big of a problem as it may appear to be at first glance. Please hear me well. I'm completely serious when I say that I think most analysts are still underestimating NVIDIA's long-term growth. Of course, I expect NVIDIA's data center business to continue growing strong, and I think many analysts are underestimating that business over the long term. But what I want you to notice here is that NVIDIA has multiple very large growth opportunities that they are really just starting to capitalize on. And these growth opportunities are in addition to NVIDIA's massive data center business. We have sovereign AI, enterprise AI, which Jensen believes is an opportunity worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Many AI-native startups, AI robotics, and quantum computing. At this very moment, NVIDIA is already establishing themselves as the underlying infrastructure of both physical AI and quantum computing. Over 2 million developers are already building on the NVIDIA robotics stack. We have NVIDIA Omniverse and NVIDIA AGX allowing real-time, on-device inference in highly demanding applications. And when it comes to quantum, Jensen told us earlier this year that NVIDIA is already working with just about everyone in the quantum industry on NVIDIA's CUDA-Q platform. These 5 growth opportunities, sovereign, enterprise, AI native, AI robotics, and quantum, are massive long-term opportunities that NVIDIA is really just starting to capitalize on. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I think there's a very real possibility that NVIDIA's AI robotics revenue may eventually be larger than their current data center business, which is crazy to think about. All of that to say that these growth opportunities are not getting enough attention from most analysts, and I think NVIDIA's future growth is being substantially underestimated. I think NVIDIA still has a lot of runway ahead of it, and I genuinely think that this company is going to be worth substantially more in future years than it is today. At least that's my view of the situation. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.